I definitely want to talk about the areas where we don't agree
Yo,
as much.
let's go straight into vegan, and then
Yeah,
I'll continue later.
yeah, sure.
Also,
So
real quick, can you give a real short summary of how you got to raw primal?
Yeah, I've been my dad's ever involving, and this seems like the most. I don't care what like the rock primals. I don't
Yeah,
associate their philosophy as a whole.
for sure.
They like to LARP as primitive humans and all that, but I believe that like from my own experience, even when I ate cooked meat before, obviously I always ate meat. I felt best from meat versus fish versus and also dairy versus like you know beans and whatnot. I never really ate those. And I've noticed right away when you eat raw meat. Have you guys tried raw meat?
For sure.
yeah,
I was raw meat, raw eggs. I was carnivore for a while. Full
same.
carnivore.
Not
I
I didn't
noticed the difference. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
didn't do full carnivore for that much because I just didn't feel good without the carbs. But then I did primal, bro, for a while. But we've tried it all. Yeah,
The raw primal. You did
yeah.
like raw meat, organs, milk, and all that.
Yep. My
Yeah.
I had a ground beef mix.
Liver.
I had a
Yeah.
ground beef mix that I ate for like 2 years straight. That was 80% beef, 10% liver, 10% heart, 10% kidney, which, from the Primal Pro perspective, that's a pretty sick
Yeah. All right.
thing. But
So you tried it for sure.
yeah.
But when I switched from cooked to raw, I just noticed the difference.
Mm.
And I'll say most of the difference was in terms of looks.
Mm.
Right now, I don't eat exclusively raw. After this, I'm probably gonna have, well, I'm not probably. My wife's gonna cook up some burgers and some bread, homemade. I love bread, man. I'm Slavic. So.
Yeah.
But when I switched to raw, in terms of lean and dry, it was like effortless, dude. It was like being on AI, like on
Mm.
automatic. Effortless. Like, doesn't matter how much sleep, if I worked all day, lean and dry to the bone when I was exclusively raw. However, that alone was the biggest benefit for having it exclusively raw. I don't think it's worth it for me. I want to
Mm.
enjoy a nice meal, but I for sure like like dairy for sure should be raw. There's
I
no need of
agree.
pasteurized milk.
I
But like
agree.
meat, I'll have raw here and there. Like the last day or two, I've had raw. When I don't have a big appetite, I'll just have it raw. When I'm like busy all day working, I'll just eat it raw. When I want to enjoy a feast and chill, I'll eat some cooked, nice, wholesome meal. Now, man, I can't grasp veganism because where do you guys get your protein?
So first, let me ask you real quick. We'll get into this, but did you do the raw and did you like think of it okay because it's more alive, it has more enzymes in it. With the pasteurization, you haven't killed basically the life and the enzymatic profile.
I've heard both takes. I've heard the OG innovator of it, Arjunus. He believes in bacteria is very beneficial, all that, and then the other end where you kill nutrition. If I can't, put a tangible finger on it, like screw the evidence,
Right?
I'm
You feel
just going
better.
based on how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't
So,
know too much about it. It could be
Yeah.
very complex when you look at the data and all that. So I
yeah.
don't care for that. Like you see all those debates. Like I saw some GOATs and vegan games. They're just, vegan games just trying to pull papers left and right. And every paper, you can find a paper for anything. It just depends
Right.
how the studies influence, so on and so forth. So let me ask you this: why even go vegan?
Well, so but let's go back to real before
The
we
protein.
get there. Yeah. So the protein. So I saw in your book you said that to when you consume soy, it's basically like you're just directly consuming estrogen. So I'm curious, like what led you to that conclusion? Why do you think that?
There's
Um,
the bioidentical identity of it being your body takes in its phytoestrogens, it takes in straight up as estrogens. Yeah, I know there's a theory that could replace stronger estrogens. Is that what you're leaning towards?
Well, the phytoestrogens there and then science comes into play sometimes to just say, hey, what does this compound do? How does it interact with our body? Like we know this we know this based on research where it comes in usage that the phytoestrogens are a modulator of the estrogen selective modulator, and it very minor effect, but they bring it up if it's too low, bring it down if it's too high. And this is the actual effect it has in our body. And then as far as the cow estrogen, right? The mammalian estrogen, within cow's milk. And again, it's minor enough to not have huge differences on estrogen, but the mammalian estrogen is actually mimics human estrogen. Um, and it's basically it's mammalian estrogen, the same type as our estrogen. Whereas the phytoestrogen, it doesn't lower if it doesn't basically affect it a lot, and it lowers if it's too high and brings it up if it's too low. So that is something that we could look at science and say, hey, that's actually what the compound does. Um, but as far as like where you got that idea from, was
Yeah,
you
I'm curious, like where did you get that like soy is basically like consuming estrogen directly? Where did that come from? Like what research did you do that led you to that point? Or where did you what did you
Well, just the world observation, the countries that consume the most soy, such as Asia, have the lowest DHT. And there's plenty of studies that looks at 5-AR and inhibitors of it, and soy is always like top ranker alongside with phytoestrogens.
so uh you're saying there's studies showing that soy raises estrogen,
No, that directly inhibits 5-AR.
5-AR. Okay.
And
Um
I suppose that's not directly raising estrogen, but 5-AR is the ultimate indicator of the pathways your hormones go down. So uh, inhibited 5-AR is like the worst in terms of biology.
for
That's what I
sure.
think.
Yeah, 5-AR is necessary, as you know, and I saw your video on the finasteride and like the poison that is. I haven't seen any studies showing that soy lowers 5-AR. Um, every study that I've seen has shown that if calories and protein are equal, that hormonal profile is basically the same on animal-based or omnivore versus plant-based diet. So I haven't seen, I would be curious to see that study that shows it inhibits 5-AR. But you know, the there's many studies showing that it does not raise estrogen.
what pretty much every
Every
study,
single study.
every single study that's a respectable study, controlled trial, shows that it doesn't. Now, I don't want to get too caught up on the soy just because it's even within the vegan diet. Yeah, soy is a staple food for a lot of people, but even for me now, I'm not really consuming soy. And the diet I'm eating right now is a little different. But as far as why we went vegan, just break down pretty simple is the ethical aspect is really what drew us to it immediately. Okay, like dang, like if we don't have to kill these, do this to these animals, where's the justification? Now, the justification for us was health, right? Okay, we need to do it to be healthy. Now, he first came to that conclusion after doing research that, number one, the studies prove that you can get everything you need, all the nutrients, B12, of course, that just comes from the dirt anyways. You can
Plenty of vegan Olympic gold medalists,
right.
champion athletes.
And then we tried it. We tried it. So I said I would try it when he convinced me to do it. And then I was like, okay, but if I feel like shit, I'm not continuing to do it. So anecdotally, I tried it and immediately felt better, felt more clean, more energized. I had a Muay Thai fight that I fought about 4 months after that. Was the only guy who got a early round finish. Um, and so the anecdotal was there, the data was there, and then also because of that, the ethical aspect for us, we do hold the belief that if we don't have to, harm or slaughter an animal unnecessarily, or for the sake of pleasure in this case, if it wasn't necessary for us, that doesn't fit within our moral framework, right?
I hear you on that because I've seen those treatments of animals like the baby chicks, the cows that they just shove something up their ass, and then they just they treat them like it's some little product, like
Yeah.
a plastic product. It's for sure unhumane. I feel bad for those animals. I resonate with those vegans that just come from an emotional stance of point, perspective. They're like, we're gonna stop eating meat because they're mistreating, and they are mistreating animals, no doubt. Now, of course, you could mitigate this a lot by buying locally from like proper farms that don't do that stuff. But you're saying it's more of a spiritual, like, why kill a living life form in order for your own gain,
If you don't have
basically.
to.
You
And
don't have
the
to,
thing
yeah.
is too is that you have to get because you have to get the say that the vegan diet was like awful for your health and like your performance, right? So say you have a purpose from God, which is to like spread your message or do some certain business, right? And it's like if you say, oh well, I'm gonna like lower my ability to accomplish my purpose because I don't want to hurt animals. that there's a little bit more of a discussion there, you know. But the thing is that on a plant-based diet, it's at least equal. And actually, what we believe and experience is that it's actually more beneficial for your energy, for your brain function, for your output than being animal based. And I mean, like Joe just won a natural bodybuilding competition, and he amongst how was it 15 competitors, something like
In
that.
my class, yeah, it
Yeah,
was competitive.
and then the he was classic physique, so it's his division. He won the natural, so now he's a pro natural bodybuilder. He was vegan the entire time.
18 months.
Yeah, but before competing, and then it was crazy was that the at the
Guy in the
same
other
time
division.
there was not a guy in a different division, the two main male divisions, and he won his division. He was also a vegan. That they realized that backstage together after they won.
After we exchanged
So
Instagram.
the only two vegans in the entire show both won their pro bodybuilding cards over all the meteors. So
So what that shows is that at minimum it's you can, right? The muscle growth isn't a problem. And we can talk about protein nuances in amongst ourselves,
Yeah,
but
my question with that, and congrats on that. But my question with that wasn't necessarily that get your protein, enough protein, and all that. I'm just curious, legit, what you eat in a day,
yeah,
and how
yeah,
do
yeah.
you even
yeah,
get cows?
So, and then one thing I touch on is the spiritual aspect. That's the biggest one for us is going to be the spiritual aspect. Number one, ethics. That's, I think ethics are a spiritual, a spiritual factor. And then also my own spiritual health, is probably the biggest one of that feeling of, just, clarity and a spiritual, elevation on the diet. It was my biggest benefit, I would say. As far as what I eat in a day, on the bodybuilding competition, it was processed. So it was a lot of processed foods. Didn't have me feeling, it had me feeling better than I was animal based, but didn't have me feeling as good as I feel now.
Ideally, what do you eat in a day?
So right now, what I love is I'm having a lot of fruit, right? About 50 to 70% fruit. And this is experimentation. So I'm not saying this is the best diet ever, but it has me feeling amazing. 70% fruit, a lot of nuts, raw nuts, of course, and then a lot of sprouts. Right. And so I'm not going for the muscle growth path right now because my protein is at about, with amino acid powder, EAAs, is at about 70 grams a day. Right. Now I'm not atrophying, I'm pretty much maintaining, but all my foods are raw. I don't use a fridge. I don't use a microwave. I don't use a stove. And that's why I think people do. I do think it's healthier, but besides the bacteria aspect, the chance of disease, which is rare, to eat the raw meats because they aren't killed of their active enzymes, right? They're the life within the food. Now, all the foods I eat, they have they are basically all charged with life, especially fruit from the spiritual aspect. Its purpose is to be eaten, right? Its literal goal is to be eaten because it reproduces by being eaten. And then the sprouts are amazing. They're a growing food. I eat them like 2 days after they sprout, so they're still in like active growth phase. It's basically like one little bean is basically what a whole broccoli stalk would be, but it's just in a tiny little bean form. So I consume that, and then nuts are just for protein, just have me feeling good as well. So that's the path I've been taking right now is more the life-filled food. And then when you go getting off track here, we don't have to go down this path. But the as far as biblically goes, in the Garden of Eden, that was the diet, right? Which is the in creation. If you look at fruit, okay, it tastes good naturally. We don't have to cook it. It wants to be eaten. Its purpose is to be eaten. We consume that, immediately convert it to energy, and that's like from that perspective, it makes sense why that creation, why that would God would want us to eat that food is it's makes so much sense when looking at the health aspect, the energy aspect, the purpose of it. So I
Well,
went
I'm
into a
with you
little
on
rant there.
fruits. I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
fruits.
yeah,
I have a lot of fruits as well. I don't believe in exclusively carb free and all that.
for sure.
I've
yeah. So
tried the for sure bit and for sure feel better with fruits. Now, fruits is very hard, especially in America, especially in Illinois, even NC here, it's hard. We have seasonal muscadine grapes, but aside from that, like, where do you get your fruits?
So
Because
I get
if you get out of season, it's just very shitty for you.
I'm just
And
dealing with
grocery stores obviously like 30, 40 pesticides.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually gonna go to Bali next month, Indonesia, and go out there, enjoy the chi and the air, the lifestyle, and get my fruits out there. But I'm going with the grocery store right now, which isn't ideal, but it still has me feeling amazing because the fruit itself is still chi filled, life filled.
Mm.
another protein source that Joe used a lot and that I like is wheat gluten. You ever heard? I know you eat gluten, right?
Gluten.
Yeah, gluten, like
Yeah.
yeah,
Is
like
it
brown sugar.
wheat bran?
So
Is
it's
that what
vital
you're?
wheat gluten. So basically, you know, like what whey protein is to dairy. It's like the
Yeah,
condensed,
yeah.
like the
Okay, I
they
got
just
you. So
squeeze
it's
the
like a
protein out of
protein
it.
of gluten.
Yeah. So like, I mean, the macros on there are just insane. Like in 400 calories, you get like 80 grams of protein. I just said this. It's like kind of
Okay.
it's kind of like meat flavored too. Like so much of like, um, you can make it raw with just the natural ingredients. You just get, you know, a bag of organic vital wheat gluten, and then you make it, and it's very like kind of a meaty type of texture and
Hmm.
insanely high protein. So there's a lot of ways to get the protein, and when you think about it, even like on animal-based diet, it's like you don't there's not that many sources that you're getting it from. You know, it's like okay, people usually pick their favorite type of meat, and then like some dairy or for a little bit extra.
A better question would be where do you get your fat?
So fat,
Avocado, fat, olive oil,
yeah.
nuts. Yeah, nuts, olive oils, avocado. Those are going to be the best fat
So I
sources.
know,
See, from my personal experience, nuts, I always feel subpar from with them. I don't feel ideal. I
Hmm.
love nuts. I would love to eat nuts. I freaking love nuts, dude. Like I could eat them all day, but when I eat them, I don't feel ideal. Fruits, I feel ideal. Dairy, I feel ideal. Eggs, bread, and gluten.
Hmm.
Funnily enough, I feel ideal. It's my
yeah,
ancestral food.
Yeah, yeah.
how do you feel
um,
after eating like a big meal of like meat? Like, do you
I
feel
feel
energized
usually I feel
afterwards,
very
or
relaxed, like from
like
all the fat, of
yeah,
course. It's a ton of fat. Like I eat 80/20. I eat bone marrow, which is pure fat.
Yeah.
But that's neither here or there. I'm sure we could get the macros, cows, whatever. I haven't tried what you guys doing, so I can't say anything. Uh, Maybe I'll try it. Right now I got another protocol I'm gonna try out, mostly raw fish and fruit.
mm,
So perhaps sometime after that I'll try out your style.
I felt
Do
good on
you
that. I've tried that.
the
It was a
fish and
little bit of
fruit?
veggies, but like Mediterranean, heavily fruit based with like salmon. Felt good.
yeah. I think
Do you guys eat beans?
I
I
eat some beans.
I eat some
Yeah,
beans less now because I like it. They're basically a lot of them. They're lacking that. I look at my diet a lot now through the life within it, which has why it's been treating me so well. It's like what we put in our body. It's like if it has life in it, if it has that chi, the word we use a lot, it's been giving me energy, and I eat and I feel energy all like 24/7 nonstop, and this isn't normal for me. Since I've tried this diet, it's been crazy how clear, clean, spiritually connected I feel. And I think that's because I'm eating alive foods, chi filled foods that want to be eaten.
yeah. And the energy is just out, way superior to when we're animal based. It's not even close. What do you?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is interesting. A lot of like spiritual practitioners, they always advocate for veganism. Now, my limited take on that is because I never tried what you guys do is, when you're fasting, I feel very similar to what you're saying when I'm fasting. Like a couple months ago, I did a three something day fast, 72 hours, and
Yeah,
I felt a lot of what you're speaking of. And I believe that's because your body's breaking down itself. It's eating, first of all, your fat, then your muscle, then your tissue, then your, all the nutritional storage. So you're getting, obviously, if you've done a long fast, you know that euphoric ecstasy. It doesn't
yeah,
just come randomly. I think it comes from breaking your body down. So long term, I don't know if you guys is 18 months, right? That's how much you've been on raw vegan.
yeah. And but the
well,
thing
the
the
thing is,
thing is,
you
we're
have a
not
lack of
missing.
calories. Yeah,
Yeah,
you have a lack of nutrients there.
we're
Like,
not missing any
yeah,
nutrients.
we're
Yeah,
hitting all
yeah.
our
I
nutrients.
suppose that's what fasting only.
So you get the spiritual benefit that, similar to what you get in fasting. It's a little different. Like if we fast, it's still a little bit of a different feeling
Right.
than eating, but it's just we
That
feel
clear
so much
mindedness.
better spiritually
Yeah.
and clear. But then the energy boost is also much higher, way higher than fasting, and also way higher than eating a primary meat-based diet from uh from our experience. And a lot of our clients who get on it, it's their experience as well. They love it. They never go back once they switch. So
So, for example, give me a day. What I eat in a day starting this.
So for would you say more, would you want us to focus spiritually, bodybuilding wise, or a mix of both?
I don't care for bodybuilding. I haven't been doing it for many years.
so
I,
So,
energy and spirit
I
probably.
would do
uh,
what I'm
not
doing.
even spiritual.
Just energy.
I'd say most thing would be just energy and supreme state of being.
Yeah,
Meaning
what I'm doing.
confidence, energy, drive.
what I'm doing, bro. The lie, and every time now I'm so spiritually sensitive to what I eat, and so I'll go have like one of like a plant-based protein meal with like pasta and stuff, and I'll feel the immediate drainage versus like the raw foods that haven't been cooked and killed of their life and are also like basically want like fruit is just king, wants to be eaten. And I didn't have this predisposition before trying it. I was like, oh, this is what people say. Like I heard people give me like this kind of same anecdote, and I was like, okay, we'll see. My God, it's been a crazy transfer, and I see food now. I'm like grateful, like in the sense of like I get to energy. Like I put stuff in my body, and instead of being like, all right, here's time to eat, time to relax. I'm like, let me put some more of this cheese, some of this energy, food in my body, and that's the best spiritually. Now, muscle growth wise, the diet I was doing, which is like 180 grams of protein, eating protein powders, eating more, maybe some processed proteins, which you don't have to do. You can go the tofu route completely. Or weak gluten. But that this is the spiritually best is the high have fruitarian, which is 70+% fruit, has just a massive change. And other people who try it too, their anecdotes are similar to mine. It's just not mainstream at all. Or really, I had never heard of it until I kind of got into veganism, heard someone recommend it to me, and then I tried it, and it's like, whoa.
Would you say that mainstream veganism is incorrect? They're
Uh,
doing it wrong.
I would say that, the more processed food you have, the more food that doesn't have life within it, that's killed basically, that doesn't have any more life in it, right? It's not going to be as beneficial, but I think that for bodybuilding purposes, you can do just as good. I'd say it's better, still better than like personally, me and Mike, especially after not eating it for so long, we don't think that meat specifically is a net positive at all. It's not even from the ethical standpoint, from the spiritual standpoint, mostly,
Let's
right?
uh, let's go back to
There's
Adam and Eve. Go ahead, man.
Let's go to
yeah,
I
go
got to
ahead.
go in like a couple minutes, and I do want to talk about this. So Adam and Eve, let's get into it.
All right, Adam and Eve. Yeah, they eat vegetation, and whatnot, fruits. But if we're gonna base what's supreme and ideal based off that, then we wouldn't be working, we wouldn't be having kids. That's
Right.
why I think I resonate with that, but it's a flawed way to approach it.
Right.
Because
Well,
now after the curse, the earth got cursed, it doesn't spring forth that chi force like you said in those fruits. And what does it spring forth? Living life, such as animals. And they are, I believe, they're put on for our consumption because in the Old Testament, how would you get rid of sin? You'd sacrifice a living animal.
right. So with that, so from the Christian perspective, whether the Garden of Eden actually existed or not, doesn't matter as much as what the point of it. It's symbolic or it actually existed, one or the other, right? Whichever path you take. The
You're
purpose.
idealizing the original human design,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
I'm linear with that. But like I
Right.
said, after the curse, we can't, you know, rely
Right.
exclusively on that.
Now, the original design, the reason it's created is because, okay, you can't, it's from Christianity, you can't justify a God being a benevolent God if he says, hey, I'm going to create the food source for you to be living creatures with consciousness, desires to live with mothers and children who don't want to be slaughtered, and I'm going to make this world and that's going to be your food. You can't justify benevolence in that. Now, but with the fall of man, because the man fell, it's basically the human's fault. And then the animals started to eat other animals. We gave permission to eat animals, etc. Now, with the Eden diet, right? The reason that obviously it was the ideal creation is because there's no violence, right? We no need violence is unholy at its core, right? Especially when it's unnecessary. And so because there was no violence, and in heaven as well, the lion will lay with the lamb, etc. That's the ideal diet. That's right. No slaughter necessary. Now, agreed. There's a bunch of things that wasn't in the Garden of Eden that are necessary for our survival, right? And we're sinful, we're fallen human beings. That's part of being human. However, having the ability, especially in our day and age, to source things, to eat like we're in Eden, to basically eat the Eden diet, eat the diet that was basically God's ideal, said, here's my ideal world. This is what I'm going to feed you. Us to have that ability right now, why would we stray away and say, hey, yeah, we've fallen and we've been given permission to eat these things. So let me go into that fallenness and into that world when we could say, hey, I have the ability to live in Eden, eat like the original design.
Okay,
And
I'll
and so
tell you why.
go ahead.
Because our biology changed. It's back then our biology was way different. We become dumbed down to animals more so. we're more godlike in in that state of being. And also, based off that belief, why should I work even?
Because you
Because
have
the
to
original
for
human design
survival.
wasn't work.
Well, because you have to
Well,
for survival.
you have to survive and you have to eat meats and animals in order to have supreme biology, I'd say.
Well, that's where you trying it, because which I seems like you have no
Yeah,
mind
yeah,
to. You
I
trying
know.
it and experiencing what that feels like is necessary, because for
Mhm.
us, from the perspective, okay, we've tried this eat and diet essentially, and we feel like it makes sense why it's the eat and diet. And so I agree, if it was necessary to feel optimal, eating meat was necessary to feel optimal, that we wouldn't be having this discussion. It wouldn't look nearly like it does now.
Well, have you noticed with long-term vegans, they have a glow up within a couple of years, and then they have a very big downfall. They start degrading like crazy. I've
Well,
seen this in most long-term vegans,
why do you
and
think
maybe
this
they're
is?
not. What do I think this is? I think it's what I said about fasting. It's eventually, yeah, you can utilize those vegan calories and whatnot, but it's not like like animals. Animals like an abundance, a saturation of proper fuel, I guess you could say.
Like what nutrients are those vegans lacking?
I'm not even speaking micros. I'm speaking overall. Like those compounds you intake. It seems like logically thinking, there's a living animal, right? It just seems superior as a life force to you because it's got meat, it's got organs, it's got all these things versus a plant that's there. And the thing with vegetables and most plants is they're all bioengineered. So like original human design, even or like post Eden fall, like a lot of the vegetables we have now, most of them didn't exist, and they mutated them in a way to be edible because they originally weren't even edible to humans. At least it's like food for our food, essentially. Of course, this is all speculative of my observations. Like we
I
don't
hear
know
you.
what humans ate and whatnot.
Right.
But
So
like
yeah,
when I let me
go ahead.
finish this thought.
Yeah, go ahead. Good.
When I look around, obviously the mainstream veganism doesn't help. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
average vegan. So we're not even talking about that.
No.
But then when I look at the elites pushing, like, Brian Johnson, I think I've mentioned this in the comment briefly. Obviously, Brian Johnson's a puppet right now, trying to, shift the narrative of health. And of course, just pushing veganism. Bill Gates is highly advocate of veganism. And Bill Gates, he's the leading world in terms of health and diet. Like, he's the one that controls food in the world. So ever a big push from the elites, like you said that of course they try to make veganism look bad as well, but it's only a very small percent compared to the big pushes I see is all towards veganism.
I
So
have to go,
yeah.
brother. It was an absolute pleasure talking with you. I hope I'll watch the rest of
Likewise, likewise.
I'll watch the rest of this conversation, and I think another one's definitely in our future because yeah, I highly enjoyed this. But yeah, man, it was a pleasure, and yeah, like I said, there's more in store for us. So have a good rest of your conversation, fellas,
All right,
and see
man.
you, brother.
Take
Yeah,
care.
so we'll finish up this talk on diet and kind of move on to some of the other things that we were going to talk
Yeah,
about.
we
But
should like kind of pause it on here and then just go back
yeah.
to it, I suppose.
Yeah, so well, I'll just answer just while we're on that. So the in terms of like a big push towards veganism, when you actually think about what are the actual actions of the elites, right? Because I know a lot of the perspective I had was that okay, they want to reduce our meat consumption. And they have the power to do that. The same way that they have the power to make any item, any resource more scarce, they could do that, but they simply don't. I mean, McDonald's, which I could probably you would agree is like a just, one of the most elite evil food corporations out there. There's not a single plant-based protein option on there. Not a single one. So if they were trying to like shove, and most places don't have. The only one that has the only single fast food place that has any plant-based protein option is Burger King. They have an Impossible Burger. Every other fast food place has nothing. Just straight meat, dairy, and despite there being a market for it, like there are a lot of people who are vegetarian and plant-based enough to where having on the menu there'd be more benefits to cost, they still don't do it. So why do you think that yes, people say, oh, Bill Gates, he talks about veganism, and I think there's a reason for that. That's gonna be more environmental purposes. Because the reason, the elites, they want us to be sick and unhealthy, but they want us to be here. They don't want to kill us all. They just want us to be controlled slaves. So I think Bill Gates aspect is more like the environmental destruction that's happening from the factory farming industry and how much that destroys so much of the environment. And that's an aspect there. In terms of Brian Johnson, he his goal is to max longevity. And as like any study, any blue zones where people live the longest, these people are vastly primarily plant-based eaters. The Seventh-day Adventists are vegan. They're the longest living community in the in America. Um, you aware of blue zones? You know, you heard of that before? Yeah, so it's basically anywhere the blue zones are people live the longest. By and large, every single time these people eat a very, very heavily plant-based diet. So, and then you look at athletes too. A lot of athletes like the top major athletes actually they eat whatever during the off season. Then when it's time to perform, they switch to a more plant-based diet. So Tom Brady, he has his diet, the TB12 diet. In the off season, he'll eat whatever he wants, tons of meat. And then when he switches to the season, he would switch to a almost entirely plant-based diet, have a little bit of maybe like chicken and meat here and there for a little bit of protein, but almost primarily plant-based. Serena Williams, she eats whatever she wants during the off season when she would go to